You're lying in a dentist's chair. There's a bright light in your face, a machine screaming somewhere near your jaw, and a stranger's hands inside your mouth. It's awful. You'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. 20 minutes later, you walk out with a numb lip and a hole in your wallet, and you complain about it for the rest of the day. Now go back 300,000 years. Same tooth, same pain, no chair, no drill, and nobody coming to help you. So what did you actually do? The honest answer is that you waited, and you hoped it fell out on its own. But that's not the whole story, and the rest of it is stranger than you'd expect. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Your teeth are almost certainly worse than theirs. When archaeologists dig up hunter-gatherers, they keep finding mouths with almost no cavities at all. Clean, solid, boring teeth. Then farming arrives, and everything falls apart. Grain, starch, porridge, bread. Sticky food that sits on your teeth and feeds the bacteria that rot them. Cavity rates climb, and they never really come back down. So if you're picturing a cave full of people with black stumps in their mouths, that picture is wrong. Most of them had better teeth than you do. They just had a completely different problem. Their problem was grit. When you grind seeds and nuts between two stones, tiny fragments of stone end up in the food. Sand blows into everything. Every single meal is very slightly abrasive, and you eat about 1,000 meals a year. Over a lifetime, that sandpapers your teeth flat. Look at an old hunter-gatherer skull and you can see it. The crowns are worn down like steps on a staircase. And once the enamel is gone, the soft living center of the tooth is exposed to the open air. Every sip of cold water is a lightning bolt. Every breath through your mouth is a mistake. That's the pain we're talking about. Not a cavity. A tooth that has been slowly sanded down until there's nothing left protecting the nerve. Now, there is one place that breaks this rule, and it's worth knowing about. In a cave called Tafaralt in Morocco, archaeologists found people from around 15,000 years ago with catastrophic teeth. More than half of the teeth they examined had cavities. Not farmers, hunter-gatherers. The reason seems to be their diet. They were eating enormous quantities of sweet acorns and pine nuts, storing them, living on them. Sugar is sugar, whether it comes from a bakery or an oak tree. So the rule isn't really farming ruins teeth. The rule is that anything sweet and sticky ruins teeth, and some people found that out 10,000 years before anybody planted a field. Here's the part that matters, though. For you, a bad tooth is an inconvenience. For them, it could be the thing that killed them. When a tooth dies, bacteria get into the pulp and down into the root, then into the jaw. That's an abscess. Your face swells, one side of your jaw goes hot and tight, and you can feel your own pulse in your cheek. If the infection stays there, you're in agony for weeks. If it gets into your bloodstream or swells enough to close your airway, you die. People still die of this today, in places without dentists, and we know they suffered from it because we found one. At El Sidron in Spain, researchers examined a Neanderthal jaw and found a dental abscess. Then they scraped the hardened plaque off his teeth and analyzed what was stuck in it. They found poplar. Poplar bark contains salicylic acid, which is the active ingredient in aspirin. They also found traces of a mold that produces penicillin. Now, nobody can prove he understood what he was doing. He might have been chewing bark because it made him feel better, and he had no idea why. But that's exactly how medicine starts. Somebody in pain chews something, feels better, and remembers. That's the first strategy. Chew something that dulls it. The second one is simpler, and we have the evidence in the teeth themselves. Toothpicks. At Krapina in Croatia, Neanderthal teeth from around 130,000 years ago have small grooves worn into the sides, exactly where something thin was pushed between them, over and over, for years. Somebody had sore gums and kept poking at them. It is the single most relatable thing in the entire fossil record. Then there's the third option, and this is where it gets genuinely impressive. They performed actual dental surgery. At Mehrgarh in Pakistan, there are molars from around 9,000 years ago with neat holes drilled into the chewing surface. The holes are round, they're deep, and the marks inside match a flint drill of the kind used to make beads. Somebody sat down with a bow drill and went into a living tooth on purpose, presumably to get at the rot underneath. At a rock shelter in Italy called Riparo Fredian, teeth from about 13,000 years ago were drilled out and then filled with bitumen, mixed with plant fibers and hair. A filling. An actual filling made of tar 13,000 years ago. And at a site in Slovenia, a cracked canine from around 6,500 years ago was sealed up with beeswax. Someone looked at a broken tooth and thought, wax. None of this had anesthetic. Think about that for a second. Somebody held your head still while somebody else drilled into your tooth, and you were completely awake for all of it. Which brings us to the last resort. Pulling it out. No pliers, no leverage, no clean way to do it. If a tooth was loose enough, it came out. If it wasn't, you either found something to lever it with, or you lived with it. And plenty of people did just live with it. We find skulls with abscesses that healed, and skulls with abscesses that clearly didn't. We find jawbones that were eaten away and then partly regrew, which means that person was in serious trouble for months and survived anyway. So here's where we end up. They had cleaner teeth than us and far worse outcomes. They understood enough to chew painkilling bark and drill out rot and fill a hole with tar, and not nearly enough to stop an infection once it started. And when it went wrong, there was no appointment to make. There was just you, your jaw, and however long it took. So the next time you're lying under that light, listening to that noise, dreading the bill, remember that you're experiencing the single greatest medical luxury of your entire species. 20 minutes of discomfort, instead of a slow, hot, throbbing month that might not end well. Your ancestors would have crawled there on their hands and knees.